Well, good afternoon, YouTube. We are on our way to the Sheriff JeepFest in Pickens County, Jasper, Georgia.
Good old Jasper, Georgia.
Now, we heard about this one, not because of the actual festival. We heard about it because in our Facebook algorithm, we got an advertisement for
They're British.
for a haunted Jeep ride, haunted trail. What's it called? Haunted trail.
Jeep haunted trail.
And so we thought, hey, that's cool. And then we noticed that it wasn't in October, which was weird. And as we looked further,
we're getting our Halloween on early.
As we looked further, we noticed that it was in conjunction with this Jeep festival.
Yeah, why wait? Why not get our spooky trail on now?
That's right. So today we will be doing two things. We'll be going to Sheriff's JeepFest, that's what this is called, which is benefits a children's charity that the Sheriff's Department of Pickens County puts on. And we are going to be doing our haunted trail ride. So thanks for joining us as we jeeped up.
Why don't you get yourself a regular car?
It's a Jeep, Dad. I look good in it.
You have to be a mountain climber to get in it.
So, first up, Sheriff's JeepFest. This is a rally that was founded back in 2012 by the Pickens County Sheriff Donnie Craig, with the support, of course, of his office. Now, this Jeep rally started off as a simple morning ride. It had under 150 Jeeps involved, but since then, it has grown. And it's all about raising funds for kids in need. 100% of the proceeds go to charities providing housing, food, clothing, and supplies for the children, all through the Sheriff's Foundation in Pickens County. Originally kicked off inspired by the tornadoes that hit Pickens County in 2009. Sheriff Craig wanted to really do his duty and make a difference. And the JeepFest became the foundation's biggest fundraiser. So we rolled in on the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, checking in the home base there for some action. No itinerary, just exploration and fun. Now, they still have trail rides. They have spots like Sandy Bottoms, Grandview, the J19 Adventure, and Beargrass. Then there's also an obstacle course right in the middle of the vendor village of the rally. Now, we didn't get to tackle any of these ourselves. We just got my wife's Jeep earlier this year, and while it has all-season tires, it does not have all-terrain tires, which they required because it had rained. And for some of these, we would have needed something other than stock suspension as well. Normally, we could have done the level 1 or level 2 trails, but again, because it rained, they requested that you had to have all-terrain tires in addition to having a four-wheel drive. And we just don't have that yet. So, not this year. What else did they have? They had a show and shine Cruise In Jeep Show in downtown Jasper. It has, live music with bands and whatnot going on stage in the evening time. We didn't venture out there either. And they raffled off a Jeep. Now, my favorite part of the rally was watching the obstacle course. We couldn't do it, but we could watch it. Now, I saw this happening up in Cherokee one year before we were part of the Jeep community. And it is great to watch these machines and their drivers try their skills out and risk their Jeeps on these obstacles. Great to watch, even if we couldn't participate. They also had tons of Jeep-related rally vendors and food trucks that were slinging grub and whatnot. And they have a prayer breakfast on Sunday morning. The biker community does this too. Generally speaking, the rally is family friendly. More family friendly, I would say, than a biker rally is. Like I said, a lot of the activities we didn't get to experience ourselves, but we did enjoy the half day that we did get to spend there. Now, after the rally, we had some time to kill before the evening's A Spooky event. So we went to Sideline's Grille in Jasper. It is a family-friendly sports bar, wings, burgers, other good food. And our waitress, whose name was Lexi, asked us if we had ever been there before. Very common question. We, of course, said no. We're here just for the JeepFest. And she told her manager, who then brought us carrot cake to welcome us to their restaurant. Seriously, the customer service here was on point. Just like you might expect from a small town where pride in your job is still a thing. So I recommend going by there if you're up at this JeepFest. If you see her, tell Lexi we said hi. Now, as the sun started to set, we geared up to go to our next adventure, our original adventure, which was the Haunted Hills Jeep Trail at Haunted Hills Farm. Now, our time slot was 8:15, which is actually just the time to pull up and get into queue. They have different rows, different queues for Jeeps to park in and wait until the sun goes down, and then they start letting people go in order. This is a Jeep-only event, ties in wonderfully to the JeepFest, but it flips the script to go full-on Jeepers Creepers, Halloween-like. Halloween meets off-roading. Turn back to you. I like the design, I just wish it was on the front.
I like the design too.
There's so many bad designs,
All that was Jasper once stood a farm with a sinister history. Known today as Haunted Hills Farm, it was once home to a peculiar family. In the early 1900s, a farmer named Ezekiel tended to his crops and struggled to level back with supernatural forces that dwelled in the surrounding forest. In exchange for plentiful harvests, Ezekiel and his family were granted the power to reap the souls of those who ventured onto his land. Over time, the farm became cursed, crops withered, and the forest became a floating place filled with helpless spirits. The family was also cursed, transformed into hideous monsters and hanging in the shadows, waiting for unsuspecting souls. The family is still here on this very night, waiting for your visit.
Now, the Haunted Hills Farm itself is a family-owned outdoor attraction in this part of the North Georgia mountains. Again, about an hour and a half north of Atlanta. And they have 3 haunted experiences, all for one price, during the main season. They have a walking trail, which is just a walk through their dark woods, and they have tunnels and twisty walls and scenes and that sort of thing. They have a haunted hayride that they normally do. And then they have something called the Slaughterhouse, which is a kind of like a live action horror movie scene that you kind of walk through. The whole thing is actor driven with over 75 ghouls and ghosties, and it's open select nights in September and October for anyone that wants to have some spooky fall fun. Terrified, they've been terrifying their visitors for at least 8 years running. But tonight, Jeeps only, and a Jeep specific trail that they've made as opposed to their normal walking trail. The Haunted Jeep Trail is held the Friday and Saturday of Labor Day weekend, tied to the JeepFest, and it is priced per Jeep, not per person. It is a drive-through experience where you pilot your own four-wheel drive Jeep through the farm's spooky woods. After dark, facing lurking ghouls and gory creatures and spooky apparitions and whatnot, and they pop up around every turn. So expect jump scares, fog, strobe lights, and of course, mud if it's rained. There are 2 water crossings on the trail. Recommended you actually have a 4-wheel drive and not just a 2-wheel drive Jeep. All vehicles must be under 9 feet tall and under 8 feet wide, which means no monster trucks. And the drivers need to be at least 18 years old with a valid driver's license to meet their criteria to go through the event. And they make you sign a waiver when you're going through, so you're responsible for any damage you do. So, we lined up with the other Jeepers and drove in once it became dark. Now, I won't show you everything, but here are some more highlights. in my opinion, JeepFest really delivered. And we weren't able to do all of the daytime trail activities like I mentioned. But we liked it. We'll go again. Drop a like if you went, or if you're jealous you didn't get to go. Subscribe for more adventures like this if you like Jeep community content in your YouTube feed. And comment below. Let us know what your favorite Jeep event is. We need to plan out our next rally. Maybe we'll see you then. Until then, Jeep it up.